Welcome into another edition of We're Not Doing a Podcast. Alongside Mark Weber, I'm Jarrett Least. Now, Thanksgiving has come and gone, Mark. So, Mark, I'm curious, when you usually go back to work, the obligatory question always has to be asked: how was your Thanksgiving? How was your Thanksgiving? So, Mark, I ask you, do you care at all when you ask other people, how was your Thanksgiving, genuinely?
It depends. If I know the person and I know their family and how their family operates, then I care because I'm curious. Like with you and all the shenanigans with your family, all the shenanigans with my family too. We both have weird families. We're not afraid to admit it. I'm genuinely curious about how your Thanksgiving is. Some of our friends, I'm also curious, given the dynamics of their relationships, how their Thanksgiving was. But a random coworker, a random acquaintance, it's just polite.
Well, what's weird about your family? You put this out into the ether. So what is weird about your family? I got to know now. The podcast audience needs to know. You put it out there. What makes your family weird?
I mean, for starters, my family is known to sing songs about Jesus Christ at the Thanksgiving table. And I'll leave it at that. I have not been to my full family Thanksgiving since 2019 now, so I have not experienced that for quite some time. But it always was a trip seeing that, especially a family that would then talk about Israel and Jewish traditions following the song about Jesus. Why don't you tell everyone what's so weird about your family as well?
Well, it's not a matter of weird, but one thing that just pisses me off. So every Thanksgiving, I go into, usually it's not at our house. I usually go into it. I have no interest. I'm not talking politics at all. But someone's going to ask the question, what are your thoughts on this? And I'm like, I'm not commenting on it.
There's
and
a reason why they're asking you, Jared. Everybody is saying that you're the crazy cousin.
No, I'm not.
Have to know their opinion.
No, because people ask me for my opinion, and then I don't really want to talk about it because I just don't want to talk about it when it comes to just other people's pure stupidity. And then when people start talking about it, they just keep going on and on and on. They ask the question, and then they just want to keep talking about it. And I just have to get up and go into another room. It just honestly pisses me off. But it is what it is. Family's great, but Thanksgiving is come and gone. I'm glad it's over. Now it's the holiday season. And we have some Hanukkah parties coming up. We'll have to deal with more bullshit when it comes to
for the record, we do love our families. It's just everyone has a weird family. I think that's anyone that doesn't is lying.
Oh, it's not. This is not immediate family.
How do you think we became the way we are? This is
not my immediate family, by the way. It's other people in the family. I don't need to get into names, but that's whatever. It just sometimes it gets drive me crazy when they want to ask me for my opinion, and I don't want to talk about it. And then
what are they asking for your opinion on? Is it about New York sports?
Who I'm voting for in 2024? It's like why ask for my opinion, and then I'll say it, but then you have 20 different things you have to say with making it seem like
they're asking you. They should
because
they should listen to your opinion.
Yeah, but then they
want to hear themselves talk sometimes.
No, but then they just want to jump down my throat, and I honestly just want to tell everyone to go fuck off when it just comes down to that. It really just
you're the cousin everyone waits all November to see Thanksgiving. I hope you do.
But you know what? Honestly, my favorite part of Thanksgiving, Mark, was a recommendation by you because you told me to watch the movie Old Dads on Netflix, which, quite frankly, was fantastic. That is definitely my future in several years from now, probably in like 15, 20 years from now, when I'm just a miserable father, when I just hate everybody and I'm driving in a neighborhood, tell everyone to go fuck off and just leave me alone. But so that was my favorite part of Thanksgiving, a recommendation by you. So we're talking about Thanksgiving, but let's get into the grand scheme of the show. Aaron Rodgers, he is back at the Jets facility. It looks like there is a potential chance he could actually play for the Jets this season, maybe against the Washington Commanders in a couple of weeks on Christmas Eve. Who knows? So, Mark, I ask you, how crazy or how dumb of an idea would this be for Aaron Rodgers to come back and play for the Jets, considering, in all likelihood, the Jets are really eliminated from playoff contention?
I'm not that worried because I don't think he is going to, because Aaron Rodgers has made it clear of his intentions to play for the Jets, and it depends on two factors. He's got to be healthy, and the Jets have to be in playoff contention. Currently, the Jets hold a 3% chance of making the postseason. So I think it is safe to say that Aaron Rodgers will not be playing for the Jets this year. But what is concerning is the distraction that it is bringing the Jets, because there's a reason why they probably didn't get Josh Dobbs because of this Aaron Rodgers situation. The reason why that they didn't have anyone to replace Zach Wilson because of this Aaron Rodgers situation. This is the problem for the Jets. It is becoming a circus for something that will not happen.
Well, I don't necessarily think it's becoming a circus. I think the only thing that's been a circus is how the Jets simply can't score touchdowns. And watching the Jets throw a Hail Mary pick six to end the first half against the Dolphins, that's more of a circus because the Jets find ways to absolutely embarrass themselves on a routine basis, especially on national TV when it comes to the ineptitude offensively. So it's a welcome sight that Aaron Rodgers is back at the Jets facility. But I really just hope that he's not only coming back just to simply say, I came back from a torn Achilles in record time, just to prove to other players that you can come back from this sort of injury in such a short period of time. I think Aaron Rodgers has already proved people wrong. The Jets opened up the 21-day window for him to practice. He's throwing the football. He's walking around great. The Jets are 4-7. They've lost 4 straight games. The season's over. They're 15th in the AFC of 16 teams. Only the New England Patriots are behind them. The Jets are not making the playoffs. It makes absolutely no sense for him to come back and play this season. Now, look, I mean, some people will put it from this argument. Sure, if he tears it again, he'll just get the surgery again and he'll be back ready to go for the start of the 2024 season, which is next September. There's plenty of time. But why do that? It just doesn't make any sense. It's just unfortunate because we're seeing all the tweets of Aaron Rodgers walking out to practice. We would have been so much more excited, and typical Jets, Mark, they have found a way to ruin all sorts of excitement. The Jets, they're just like the Grinch. They steal Christmas. They steal everything away from us. It really is amazing, but you're ahead of the curve when it comes to the Jets. They always find a way to ruin everything for us. So who knows, but we'll see what happens with Rodgers coming back.
And what's going to be interesting with the Rodgers scenario is if he does come back, how does that then impact their draft chances? Because right now the Jets hold the 8th pick in the draft as we're recording this podcast. There's a lot of questions remaining, which I'm sure we'll talk about for quite some time, on who the Jets will have to get in the draft. Probably going to be a wide receiver, not a tight end, offensive line, potentially. But I think it's safe to say that this is just causing too much of a distraction. As I said, 3% chance of them making the playoffs. Rodgers is coming if they have a chance to make the playoffs. And given this offensive line that it's been worse since the beginning of the season, worse since he had the season-ending injury, worse since the preseason when he criticized the offensive line openly to reporters, it just doesn't make sense for him to step on the field. And this is almost becoming one of the worst possible scenarios the Jets could have had with Aaron Rodgers, given that he wasn't healthy enough to play. He's becoming a distraction, and the team is not a playoff team. This is the worst case scenario for the Jets. It's happening right now, and you have to hope that things change for the 2024 season.
Look, at the end of the day, I'm quite frankly over the 2023 NFL season. As we were saying over the summer, we were over the 2023 baseball season, looking forward to football, and now it's always the next season in New York sports.
Are you looking forward to the draft now? Is that something you're excited about? Because there's a lot of talent in this year's draft, and if they could get a weapon to supplement not just Aaron Rodgers, but Garrett Wilson as well, you're talking about what could be a very exciting 2024 season.
No, if Aaron Rodgers comes back healthy and is actually able to stay on the field for the entire 2024 season, there'll be plenty to be excited about. And if the Jets finish in the top 10 of the draft, they will be in position to get a potentially really good wide receiver or a good offensive lineman. The one thing that'll just drive me insane is if the Jets use any of their upcoming 2024 draft picks on defense. They better not do that. It has to be offense, 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 because Lord knows that the New York Jets need all the offense in the world, as they just seem to be historically bad offense.
And it would be inexcusable too, because there's 3 guys that are wide receivers that could go legitimately in the top 10 in the 2024 draft. You have Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, and Keon Coleman. Mm-hmm. And if none of those 3 guys go to the Jets and the Jets hold a top 10 pick, then it's a disgrace on management, and especially Joe Douglas, if he's still even the GM at that point.
Well, there's certainly been a lot of things that have been disgraceful about the New York Jets. Now, moving on to something that some other people may consider disgraceful, and that is the NBA in-season tournament. Now, the New York Knicks, they qualified for the quarterfinals in this in-season tournament. They're going to be playing at Milwaukee against the Bucks next week for the right to go to the semifinals and a trip to Las Vegas and potentially earn some more money, where some players are interested in buying some jewelry and some watches. Mark, you are the NBA aficionado. You watch international players in the summer at 4:30 in the morning. You cannot get enough basketball, and I know you cannot get enough NBA. So, Mark, is the NBA in-season tournament good for the league?
It's great for the league. I'm not a particular fan of it, so it's kind of weird for me to say this because I don't love the in-season tournament. I find it to be very gimmicky. I think it's the league really trying to pander to a different market overseas, because as the league is changing and some of the biggest names are not from the United States of America, they're trying to get those fans, but those fans will come anyways if there's so much international talent in the NBA. But the reality is, this is great for the league. Ratings are up the wazoo on Tuesdays and Fridays. ESPN's ratings compared to November of last year on Tuesdays up 20%. TNT's ratings compared to November of last year up 16%. So Warner Brothers Discovery is happy. Disney is happy. The NBA is happy, as ratings are going up around 19% and are going way up since November of last year. People are actually talking about the regular season. So this is great for the league. And if this continues, which it likely will, we're going to see this for years to come, because ratings talk, money talks. And if the players like it, and if the fans are getting into it, we're going to be seeing the in-season tournament for a long time.
Mark, I think my opinion that I'm about to give you is going to blow your mind. So, are you ready for it?
I'm ready, because you didn't seem too optimistic about it. You were the only good friend that's a sports fan that wasn't texting me like crazy about the Knicks' chances in the in-season tournament.
So, as our podcast listeners know, I really do hate the NBA, but I think the NBA in-season tournament is great for the league. Mark, you just mentioned it. You piggybacked off a point that I was just about to make. People are talking about the NBA regular season, whereas in years past, no one cared about games in October and November, December, January, February. So there is a talking point about the NBA. Even people are talking about how hideous the courts are. I honestly think part of why the courts are so ugly is something to do with people are just talking about it. And one thing that's always been the biggest pet peeve of mine when it comes to the NBA is how the players, they just don't care about the regular season. They take nights off for rest. They just simply don't play too often. And you're seeing players, for better or worse, say they're into it. Julius Randle said, yeah, we want a trip to Vegas. We want to earn some money for guys that are the 14th, 15th players on the roster. So at the end of the day, I can't be a hypocrite and say on past podcasts NBA players, they simply don't care. Whereas for this tournament, they're showing they care. They want to go win an extra $500,000. Josh Hart is tweeting about going and buying a Rolex watch, even though he just signed an $80 million contract. He can go buy 10 himself right now, but that's a totally different topic of conversation for another day. But people are talking about the NBA regular season in November, and kudos to Adam Silver. That's really all you can ask for. Players care about it, and it's a topic of conversation. The actual games during the regular season. So I really can't complain about it.
You know what I also think helps is the whole point differential aspect of it. And I never understand why leagues don't do this, because point differential really shows a lot about a team. It is how often these teams are beating their opponents by a lot. It really dictates who is a championship contender, legitimate or not. So having point differential determine the outcome of a tiebreaker really helps, because it's going to make these players into it the entire game, all 4 quarters, so they can bump up that point differential for going through the entire season and for the in-season tournament. And I think that's what makes it great for the league, because these guys are in it every second. And with a playoff game, all you have to do is win. But with these qualifying games for the in-season tournament, you have to win by a lot. So that makes a big difference. And also just want to make a valid correction from before. The Turner games are Tuesday nights, ESPN Friday, but regardless, double-digit increases in November for a regular season game this early is a huge win for the league, and obviously a huge win for their media partners as well.
And I think, Mark, you'll like the fact that with the point differential, when we're watching the Knicks game the other night, when the Knicks are up by 25 plus, you're still getting extra bang calls from Mike Breen. It's if you're getting more and more bang calls from Mike Breen, I'm all for that, because Mike Breen's the best in the business. And if
teams should be rewarded by how much they beat another team. And in baseball, run differential really determines how great a team is. Point differential for the NFL is huge. NBA, it is a huge factor determining who's one of the best teams in the league. But to have this as a tiebreaker, I think that in itself is going to be potentially the next big factor, in addition to keeping the in-season tournament for the long run for the NBA.
It is finally good to see something good when it comes to the NBA and the games that are being played. Now, moving on to something else that is good in the games that are being played, that is TommyDeVito.
I thought New York football was dead, Jared.
Of the New York, well, TommyDeVito mania is certainly not dead. TommyDeVito of the New York Football Giants. He has certainly.
I'm sure he has a cousin with that name, Jared.
Exactly. I mean, it's funny. Joe Shane's calling him Danny DeVito. No one knows. It's very wild to see TommyDeVito, a local product, Don Bosco Prep, played college football at Syracuse University, our school. He has taken the Giants by storm. He has led them to a couple of wins the past few weeks. So there's a lot of buzz and a lot of hype when it comes to TommyDeVito right now with the New York Giants. And it brings me to a little bit of a flashback several years ago when the New York Knicks had a little something called Linsanity, in which Jeremy Lin took the NBA and the New York Knicks by storm for really a short 2-week period of time. Mark, what do you think's the bigger deal? DeVito mania or Linsanity going back many years ago?
Oh, come on now, Jared. The answer is so obvious for this one. Linsanity was a significantly bigger deal than whatever we're calling this TommyDeVito thing right now. Linsanity was a national story. What's going on with TommyDeVito is a fantastic local story for New Yorkers, New Jersey residents, people in Connecticut that are Giants fans and have some affiliation with New Jersey. The DeVito thing is special if you're from around where the Giants play. Outside of that, I don't think people are really talking about it. And that's what really separates this.
But Mark, Tommy DeVito was just introduced in the Giants game. He came out to the Soprano song. I mean, all you do
Exactly.
is
It's a very New Jersey, New York, Connecticut type thing. And I think it's important for locals. Jeremy Lin had his own cover on Sports Illustrated before they had AI writers. Jeremy Lin was interviewed on the biggest news networks in the country. Jeremy Lin was rumored to be dating Kim Kardashian, which was just a humongous press release thing for Kim Kardashian to get extra attention. But still, this doesn't compare anything to what Tommy DeVito's doing because Linsanity was just so much bigger. And I'm going to have a hot take. There's been nothing in sports that has been as big as what Linsanity was. What Tommy DeVito is doing is special. It is similar to what Steven Matz did in the 2015 season with the Mets, a local product, a great story for a local team. We don't know how much longer this is going to last, as Tommy DeVito played some terrible teams in the last two games with the Patriots and the Commanders. It's a nice story. It does not compare Linsanity. No disrespect to Tommy DeVito. It's just that Linsanity hasn't had anything that's compared to it since it happened over 10 years ago.
I do agree with you. Linsanity, it really took the country by storm. But I got to give some credit to the whole Tommy DeVito story because you're seeing people at local delis in New Jersey. They're getting the Tommy cutlets. I mean, who doesn't love Tommy DeVito's dad? I mean, the other thing that's also crazy about the Tommy DeVito story, when he had friends and family come to the game when they played the Patriots, this is always something that always has fascinated me. He had 100+ friends and family.
Yeah, how does that work?
It's crazy.
Like, aren't there people that have tickets to these games? Are they selling it to the DeVito family?
It's crazy.
Humongous face value? I don't understand that. How do they have so many tickets?
Exactly. Like, Mark, if you were a professional athlete and you're making your debut, you're only going to have your wife come to the game, your mom and dad, and potentially your brother come to the game, and maybe one or two friends. That's really it. I don't understand when it comes to professional athletes. They have basically, it's like a wedding. They have 250 people. It's like, what do they have, the whole town?
But I know people that are related to professional athletes, and they don't get as many tickets as DeVito is getting.
Yes.
It just, I don't know how it's possible. Maybe they're buying them all, and they're just suckers for a buy. But then again, if you're a friend of Tommy DeVito's, or you know Tommy DeVito well, you don't know how much longer this is going to last. Daniel Jones is likely the franchise quarterback of the Giants. This is a once-in-a-lifetime run, so it is worth it to travel to each game that DeVito will be starting.
It is definitely a cool story. I just think also the fact, just the touchdown celebration for Tommy DeVito, and his dad's a legend. The family are just absolute legends. And you also just like the story with him saying, yeah, I live at home. My mom does my laundry, make my bed. It's a great story.
Did you ever dream of this when he was playing for Syracuse?
Did I ever think this would happen? Or are you saying, did I ever dream of me not making my bed and people making my bed?
No. Well, we know you still don't make your bed.
I do make my bed. I do make it.
When he was playing for Syracuse, could you ever imagine that he would sniff the NFL?
Say that. What's that?
Did you ever imagine that he would sniff the NFL when he was playing for Syracuse?
No, absolutely not. And look, it's a pretty good situation he's in right now because Brian Daboll's coaching him up pretty well. He's gotten him throwing 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions this season. He's got over
more than Zach Wilson.
He's got a 90+ quarterback rating. He's looked pretty solid. How long is it going to last? Remains to be seen. But
he has more wins in his rookie season than Eli Manning did. That is just absurd. Granted, it's 2, but still.
Yeah. Look, you give him a lot of credit. He has certainly played well. I'm rooting for Tommy DeVito because he's a local product. You want to see him succeed. He's a Syracuse guy as well, but
and he's providing positive content for us when it comes to New York football this year.
The family of Tommy DeVito just makes me root for him even more because, quite frankly, it'll just be phenomenal if you get his friends and family continuing to come to games. It'll go from 200 to 400 to where the whole DeVito family will take up MetLife Stadium. So it is definitely a fun story to watch, and remains to be seen how it continues to unfold. Now, another story that is certainly very fascinating when it comes to the MLB offseason, and that is setting up to be a bidding war between the Mets and the Yankees. And that is for the services of star Japanese pitcher Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Now, Mark, both the Mets and Yankees are dying to sign him. Who do you think needs Yamamoto more, though? The Mets or the Yankees?
The answer is simple. It's the New York Yankees. I'm not trying to sound biased, but there's been this whole report that has been going around that Japanese players love going where a Japanese player has been successful in the past for that major league team. And if that is the case, he has to go to the New York Yankees. Look at the 5 best Japanese imports to the MLB. Tanaka, Matsui, Darvish, Ohtani, and Ichiro. 2 of those 5 started as New York Yankees. One of them became a New York Yankee. Yamamoto belongs in the Bronx, not Queens. Because even though the Mets have actually signed more Japanese players than the Yankees, fun fact, the Mets isn't where you want to go. The Yankees are holding this guy's number for him. Brian Cashman is sitting front row in Japan to watch him play. Yamamoto belongs in pinstripes. I'm not being biased. It just makes sense for Yamamoto.
Well, who needs Yamamoto more? That's the Mets. The Mets need Yamamoto.
They both need him, but it just makes more sense for Yamamoto to be with the Yankees.
Not necessarily. The Yankees don't need him more than the Mets because Yamamoto is projecting to be a potential ace, whereas the Yankees have a legitimate number one in Garrett Cole, who won the Cy Young. If the Yankees don't get Yamamoto, they can sign an Eduardo Rodriguez or a Jordan Montgomery to
the Mets have an unlimited budget and they can sign anyone they want.
Well, that's what the Mets need Yamamoto more, because right now they don't have that top of the rotation starter. Potentially Kodai Senga could continue to get better and be a number one, but right now he's looking at more likely as a number 2 type of starter. The Mets need him more because I really do believe if Yamamoto signs with the Mets, it just sets up for an even more blockbuster of an offseason for the Mets. Because if they strike out on Yamamoto, I really think the Mets are going to view 2024 as truly more of a transitional type of season, because the Mets are not going to go out and sign a Blake Snell. It doesn't make sense for them to get him. He's got the qualifying offer attached. I don't think he would necessarily pitch well in New York. I think Yamamoto really would set up everything else for the Mets, where you could pencil him in as that ace starter, and they can go out and get a guy like a Jordan Montgomery or Eduardo Rodriguez. And then you'd really be cooking with gas with that rotation with the Mets. Whereas I think the Yankees need offense much more. I personally think the Yankees need to go out and make a trade for Juan Soto.
Yeah, but the Yankees need to show that they're going to go out there and spend money. And what better way to spend that cash than on a 25-year-old pitcher from Japan who is not just any Japanese pitcher. I know we overhype these guys. I'm a sucker for a good Japanese baseball player. However, if you look at the numbers, there has never been a pitcher that has come from Japan to the major leagues that has had the numbers that Yamamoto has. Not Tanaka, not Darvish, not Ohtani, not even Matsuzaka. Yamamoto is the real deal, and this will mean so much to the Yankees fan base and their optimism and their thoughts on Brian Cashman. If they get Yamamoto, hey, success is with the Yankees when it comes to Japanese players. It makes sense for Yamamoto to go there. The only problem is the one thing that is in the way of that is money.
So I'll ask you, if you had only a choice of one, who would you rather have for the Yankees? Sign Yamamoto or trade for Juan Soto, also knowing the Yankees will be able to extend him for 10 plus years? Who would you rather have?
I love this question, Jared. I absolutely love this. I love this more than the Linsanity versus TommyDeVito question. That being said, my answer, Juan Soto. Because we know what Juan Soto is in the major leagues. Juan Soto, for the past 3 seasons, a top 5 player in Major League Baseball. Juan Soto is the modern-day Ted Williams, folks. If you could trade for Juan Soto and extend him, that's the move you have to make over Yamamoto. If they could get both, that would be great, but it really comes down to the Yankees giving up their top young players and top prospects, so there's a lot of questions around that. So Yamamoto, it doesn't hurt to go after Yamamoto because you don't know what's going to happen with Soto. But if it's between the two, you have to hope for Soto. And the Mets have been the longtime betting favorite for Yamamoto, so we'll see.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I just personally think the Yankees need Juan Soto a lot more because their offense has been the reason why they have failed much more in the playoffs over the past several years. The Mets need everything. Look, the Mets right now, they're just not a very good team. They need offense. They need a starting rotation. They need bullpen help. So the Mets need a whole lot, whereas I think the Yankees do have a solid foundation when it comes to their starting rotation. Yes, they can add an Eduardo Rodriguez or Jordan Montgomery. I think they'd be fine because you have the top of the rotation guy.
How many of the 9 Japanese players who the Mets have signed could you name off the top of your head? I was shocked by how many they've signed.
Kodai Senga, you've got Kazmatsui, you have Tsuyoshi Shinjo.
There we go.
Benny Agbayani was from Hawaii, though, right?
Yeah, he was from Hawaii.
All time we're talking? Jeez.
All time. Starting in 1997.
1990s. Oh, man.
Takashi Kashiwada?
Yoshi? Who's the pitcher when he hit Daisung Ku? No,
that was he was Korean, I think.
I don't think I should play this game because
we'll stop it there.
I shouldn't play this game because I'm gonna be saying
before Senga was Ryota Igarashi. Do you remember him?
He was decent for like 10 seconds, but I then remember he tried throwing a guy out. It was on a bunt and like he stubbed his foot and his career went downhill. That's how you know I watched. That's how you know I watched too much goddamn Mets baseball. It's fucking.
That was also 2010. It was your senior year of high school, freshman year of college. You were watching a lot of baseball then.
Mark, if I had all the time in the world, I would still be watching too much Mets baseball. It is a sickness. I am a diseased human being, but I will continue to watch New York Mets baseball as long as I have the time. That will not change. I'm a sick human being, so I will always watch my New York Mets. Now, moving on to who some other people in the world may think are sick human beings, and that's our favorite segment of With It or Not With It. We're going to play a little different version of With It or Not With It for this episode. So everyone knows about the world's famous couple, TravisKelce, Taylor Swift. Either you can't get enough of them or you're absolutely sick of them. And there's another couple that unfortunately just recently called it quits, as Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports and his girlfriend, Silvana Mojica. Mark, this was your idea for this question, so I give you credit for that. Who is a more iconic couple, Travis and Taylor or Dave and Silvana?
I mean, Travis and Taylor are definitely the more iconic couple, but who is the more interesting story as of today? It's got to be Dave and Silvana. I mean, my TikTok feed, maybe this says a lot about me, is entirely Dave and Silvana. And what's brilliant about this breakup, which there really isn't much brilliance with a breakup ever, is that it's been a week span between when she announced it and when Dave finally spoke about it on his podcast, the BFF podcast with Brianna Chicken Fry and Josh Richards, which is an actual sentence. They're definitely the more interesting couple. We all knew it was coming since they've dated in March 2021 because Dave is not someone that sees things for the long haul aside from Barstool Sports. And given her whole party culture, the fact that he's in his mid 40s and he's going out till 5 a.m. with her, and she's at the age where all of her female friends are going to be talking about getting engaged or finding someone to get engaged to. And given the fact that he is now 46 years old, a lot of people probably thought that they would get engaged at some point. And when she's going on TikTok, showing off which rings she likes, and Dave, who has been married before, the end was always kind of near. So I've been very fascinated by this relationship because with Travis and Taylor, what's really going on? They're not getting engaged anytime soon. The relationship is just still going on. So the Dave and Silvana has kind of taken over Travis and Kelce and Travis and Taylor a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely been obviously the bigger story because it's just recent that
you broke the news.
And yeah, well, to you, I didn't break the news to like hundreds of millions of people. If not, then I mean, our podcast, we would
Our
be
TikTok video about the breakup had over 2 million views, Jared. Silvana.
Well, you're saying I broke the news to you. Well, I didn't break the news to the rest of the world. If that was the case, then we'd be making the big bucks for this podcast. If we had a global audience.
You'd be on BFF's podcast with Josh Richards and Brianna Trimmy. True.
I would be. The thing that I'm curious is I'm pulling for Silvana. I really hope that, like, as she, I mean, it's not that I'm against Dave, but I hope that Silvana makes a career of just whatever she does. And look, it clearly will probably be in some sort of social media content. I hope she just doesn't fall off the face of the earth. And I don't think she will, because there are a lot of people who have been Team Silvana in this breakup, a lot more so than Dave. And she really comes across as a sweet girl, Silvana. And I think I'm pulling for her. I have no...
Maybe next up will be Tom Brady, another Boston.
I have no doubts that she will find the right one in time. She seems like a great girl, and I'm sure she'll find someone.
Just set her up with someone, Jared. You should find the next guy for Silvana.
Oh, right. I don't know. I don't know too many people who are looking for. Well, we're in New York, so I mean, well, actually, Mark, I'm not going to say his name, but you know, I do have a friend who lives in Miami, Mark. I'm not going to say his name.
Oh, all right. Maybe.
But you know who I'm talking about. That'd be
He's been looking for a place to live, so maybe Miami's not for the long.
And they are close in age, so it remains to be seen.
Closer than Dave and her, to say.
I'm actually, you know what, Mark? After this, I'm gonna try speaking this into existence. I actually need this to happen. After we're done recording this episode, I'm gonna actually try to. I don't know how I'm gonna make it happen because I don't know Silvana. I don't know how to get in contact with her, but I'll reach out to my friend and see if it could work. But stay tuned on me trying to set up my friend with Silvana Mojica. That's all the time we have on We're Not Doing a Podcast. For Mark Weber, this is Jarrett Lee signing off. We'll see you next week. Have a good night.